Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. My name is Dr. Holly Lopez. I am the host for this session, Finding Where I Fit, creating a practical mentoring model to build community for primarily online academic units. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now, I am pleased to introduce you to Dr. Jocelyn Fisher. Dr. Fisher serves as the College of Applied Science and Technology's Assistant Dean of Faculty Affairs, with an intentional lens on heightening inclusivity, social justice, and fostering community in the online space. Jocelyn was among the fourth cohort of the HSI Fellows under the leadership of Dr. Marla Franco. Her team's project centered on the servingness of the university's Hispanics, Latinx population and of the U of A's recertification of the Seal of Excelencia. In Jocelyn's role, she was responsible for onboarding new faculty, promoting equity for faculty across tracks, and managing the annual performance reviews, as well as retention, tenure, and promotion for faculty. She also serves enthusiastically alongside the provost office, providing support to other faculty affair leads and the partners across the university. More relevant to this talk, Jocelyn launched the college's first faculty peer mentoring program, which serves to partner newer faculty with senior level faculty with the targeted goal of creating meaningful collaborations, maximizing portfolio expansion opportunities, and reducing the ubiquitous silos still resonating in our post-pandemic world. Dr. Fisher earned her BS in English from the Jackson State University in 2006, her MS in Higher Education Administration from Mississippi College in 2011, and her EDD in Educational Innovation from Augusta University in 2019. Fisher's dissertation, titled Get Them Here, Keep Them Here, a study of the recruitment and retention of Black students at PWIs, earned her an Award of Excellence in Research by the Augusta University College of Education. She continues to broaden her reach through conference presentations, sharing her experiences of fitting into the traditional EDD outside of the P through 12 setting, modifying the makeup of systems to widen the door for those less seen. Dr. Fisher is a native of Mississippi and is married to a fellow native with one son and a bonus daughter and son. Welcome, Dr. Fisher. We look forward to hearing from you today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lopez. That was fabulous. And I apologize for putting all of that on you to read. So welcome everyone. Again, I'm Jocelyn, and I'm going to go ahead and start to share my screen so that we can begin our interactive discussion. Can everyone see my title slide? Okay, perfect. So if you'll go ahead and scan that QR code so that we can start to get a little interactive in our discussion prior to me jumping into the model that I've implemented at the College of Applied Science and Technology. And I believe that link will also be posted in the chat if you can't scan the QR code on your screen. So I'll give everyone about a minute or two to go ahead and free type in your responses to this first Padlet icebreaker. And essentially what I want to find in listening to your responses or reading your responses is if you have already engaged in a mentoring program, however formal or informal, what has your role been? And just kind of piggybacking off of Haley's question in the opener, what kind of barriers have you encountered, especially those of you who have tried to implement or have been involved in mentoring programs in the online space? So about another 30 or 40 seconds to free type in anything that you want to share based on your own personal experiences in mentoring. And we will use that to kind of guide our discussion later on in the presentation. And so what I'll do is just share the first set of responses, if we got any. So one user says, I have served as a mentor to first-time preschool teachers and mentoring online internships. They love it. So obviously, we always want to make sure that our teachers, especially our first-time teachers who are entering the academic space. I'm finding that in our College of Applied Science and Technology, because we do have a lot of practitioners who come from industry and are not necessarily familiar with the inner workings of a higher education institution. So that response from that attendee who's mentored first-time preschool teachers is transferable all the way up to the higher education level. So thank you so much for that. And I'll talk a little bit more about how those challenges have been presented for those particular practitioners in our college. Another attendee, as a doctoral student, I have served as an online course mentor for other online students. I help them acclimate to the online environment. Fantastic, because even before the spring of 2020, when COVID kind of brought everybody to our kitchen tables and living rooms, we were a primarily virtually online college. We did offer some face-to-face classes on the Sierra Vista campus in Arizona. But what we have found is that even when our faculty were so used to delivering instruction online, there was this silos that was felt, even interdepartmentally. So one of the things that I really was intentional about when I was onboarded in 2019 was to ensure that I got a true representation of what faculty were struggling with, not only in the classroom, but also in their personal lives. So I definitely appreciate that response. To another attendee says new teacher mentoring. So definitely going back to supporting our instructors and professors and making sure that they're not only equipped professionally in delivering courses on the various platforms for their students, but also that they continue to ensure that they feel a sense of belonging, which is the theme of this conference. And then I have served as a mentor to students as a dissertation chair and committee member. My experience as a dissertation, going through my dissertation only 5 years ago, was when I was finishing up my EDD. I am a former military spouse. And so right in the middle of my EDD program, I went from face-to-face attending classes every single day with my cohort to having then have to be uprooted and, relocating to another part of the country. And luckily, I was more than halfway through. I was working on my dissertation in practice, and my dissertation chair was phenomenal in ensuring that I was the only student who was attending via Zoom most of the class sessions, true, but that dissertation chair definitely ensured that I had all of the materials necessary, that I stay engaged in as much as possible with not only her, but also my fellow cohort members. So that really did help to accentuate my feelings of belonging, having been the only student to be attending virtually. So that definitely makes a huge difference. So thank you so much for highlighting that. A dissertation chair, a good dissertation chair definitely makes all the difference. And I can personally attest to that. So I factor in and bring in all of these personal experiences, not only with, so thank you all of the attendees for your responses there. I'll go back to the presentation now. But definitely having a dissertation chair that really has the inner workings of what it truly means to have that feeling of silos and disconnect in whoever you're collaborating with, whatever community that you're trying to be a part of. I definitely try to make sure that I take in all of those personal experiences and apply it to the work that I do. So going back to the presentation, So I'll skip the about me slide because Dr. Lopez did a phenomenal job of introducing me. So just telling a little bit about the College of Applied Science and Technology. We're a former branch campus of the University of Arizona. We actually got our designation as a 2-department college in August of 2019. The 2 departments started out being applied technology, which kind of morphed into our cyber intelligence and information operations, or CIIO department. And then we also have an applied science department. So we pretty much have about 30 full-time faculty, which includes our 2 teaching department heads who have an administrative workload as well as a service workload, and about 20% teaching, which for our college is 1 course per semester, 1 full-time course per semester. We're heavy on the career track faculty side, and we have about 10 tenure track faculty. I, again, was hired as the first faculty affairs personnel in general, and still 5 years later, I'm the only FTE who's in the college who deals with faculty affairs. We do have an assistant dean for curricular and academic affairs, but like Dr. Lopez read, I onboard our faculty. I make sure that they're set up for professional development opportunities. And then when I was brought on board, I was new to the faculty affairs role. And so what I wanted to truly do was humble myself, first of all, to reach out to the faculty, because some of them were a part of that legacy UA South world, which scarred many of them, to be quite frank. And so really what I wanted to see, which was, what exactly do the faculty need now that we are a college? What exactly do you feel what areas do you feel disconnected from the larger University of Arizona, and how can I help? And so what I found in some of those initial conversations with tenure track faculty as well as career track faculty who have been at the former UA South for 10, 15 years, was that there really was no process in place to make sure that faculty understood their career trajectory, meaning how can they be promoted? What opportunities can they actually be involved in that are going to translate to career growth? And so what I did when I pretty much learned what faculty were struggling with was, we have faculty in our college who have mastered that, who have kind of taken that on and really made sure that they experience their own growth. But what I also wanted to do was take that side of their conversation that said that they felt disconnected from the University of Arizona and reach out to the provost's office. And so what I did was made sure that I connected with Dr. Andrea Romero, who's the Vice Provost for Academic and Faculty Affairs. And I said, what I really think that our college would benefit from is a mentoring program, because we have so many credentialed faculty in the college. They just are stuck with not knowing how they can fit into the broader world of the university, and they don't necessarily have the information to know that they have so much more in common with their own colleagues within the college. So how can I institute a program like the one at the university and really make it meaningful for our unique set of faculty? So what she did was she pretty much gave me a lot of toolkits. She gave me a lot of tools to put in my own personal toolbox. And what I'll just say is, what I found in those conversations with not only Dr. Romero, but also our faculty, is that it definitely tracks with what the literature says about how faculty feel about disengagement, disconnection, and community. We have about maybe 15 or so faculty who are under the age of 45. And so even when the university was going through COVID and mostly everybody was still working from home, there was the study that was put out by the provost office that did say that younger personnel do favor remote working environments, while the older faculty kind of want to have more opportunities to engage with their peers because they tend to feel more isolated. And so what I really wanted to do was make sure that the College of Applied Science and Technology did not fall victim to the statistics to where faculty were going through issues of not feeling heard, not feeling like they belonged. And on top of that, they were taking those own personal issues that they were struggling with into the classroom, because just to echo what Dr. Packard said this morning, faculty do have a tendency, human beings in general, have a tendency to take what it is we're struggling with internally, and it becomes manifested in the work that we do, be it intentionally or unintentionally. And so what I really wanted to make sure was that I became a voice and an advocate for the faculty to make sure that I set them up for the best possible chance at success. And oftentimes I did that by way of connecting them with a faculty member who understood the ropes and the paths of navigating the former UA South and the former College of Applied Science and Technology, so that they not only had my support, not only did they have the resources from the University of Arizona's provost office, but that they actually had someone that could take them by the hand within their own college to ensure that they had that more intimate knowledge of how to become successful at the college. So in my inaugural year of instituting this mentoring program, what I wanted to do was just lay out the groundwork and essentially the boundaries of the CAS mentoring program, because when faculty have gone through pains of being at a college or at a unit or at a school in general, or any kind of government entity, whatever their workplace may be, there does tend to be lots of conversations that revolve around strifes and bitterness. And while that's okay, because we want to get to the root of why faculty do not tend to progress and do not tend to put forth the productivity that they would like to, as well as their employers would like them to, we also wanted to make sure that in this inaugural cohort, we established a true mission and a vision. So I did want to draw a distinction between the CAS mentoring program and the university's FDCP. And I'm not sure if anyone on the call has heard of the FDCP, but it's the Faculty Development Communities for Promotion. And that's the overarching University of Arizona's mentoring program. So while I did adopt certain aspects of that mentoring program, I paired one faculty to one faculty because I found that typically enhances the overall success of the mentoring partnerships. And I did want to make sure that one faculty member on the career track was paired with another faculty member on the career track, because their challenges as well as their requirements as career track are aligned. And so tenure track faculty, while they have the institutional knowledge, while they have the expansive research portfolios, don't always have the inner knowledge to understand what a career track faculty may be going through. So I definitely wanted to try to keep and still work to ensure that faculty are paired along the same tracks. I definitely did not want to give faculty the indication that by merely participating in the mentoring program, that you're guaranteed a successful annual performance evaluation or you're guaranteed promotion. While you will be paired with a faculty member who has all of this expertise and has gone through these different review processes, just by participating in the mentoring program does not guarantee the successes in those particular review processes. So I kind of wanted to set the stage, and I always want to make sure that I deliver this information at the onset of each academic year when we have participants sign up to be mentored. And so I talked a little bit about how I pair faculty. This is based on last year's group. Again, I make sure that mentors and mentees are paired accordingly across tracks. One faculty member, for instance, on the tenure track was in their 8th year of service, and you'll see that all of the mentees from last year were all in their 1st year of service. So while mentoring is not required of career track faculty, as it is strongly encouraged with tenure track faculty, I definitely want to get them right as they come into the college and the university to say, hey, we have this unique and exciting opportunity for you to learn from a colleague who's been at the college for a long time. They have this wealth of knowledge. So I always want to make sure, like one of the attendees said, to make sure that we support our first time faculty, especially those coming from the industry who don't necessarily have that academic background. And so that's just a little bit more about how I pair the mentors and the mentees. And I won't go into too much detail because I want to save time at the end for us to discuss a little bit more about your own experiences and how you may be able to then adopt, amend processes at your own institutions or academic units to fit the various needs of your students, faculty, and or staff. And so a little bit about the program structure, what I found in amending how the university conducts their meetings for the FDCP program, the Faculty Development Communities for Promotion, I found that having meetings during that first year where they were twice a month, meaning every other week, that tended to be overkill. So I scaled back on the meetings, especially when I get around to meeting with the mentors as a group and with the mentees as a group, I make sure that they actually have that time to connect with their mentors and their mentees outside of their formal meetings. And I definitely want to do those check-ins as the coordinator of the program to ensure that they continue to have the resources that they need. If they've identified obstacles that they have not necessarily been able to remedy on their own, I want to make sure that I stay plugged in to gather those resources and the support mechanisms that I need to ensure that they're all set up for success. So the mentors and the mentees, they're only required to meet monthly. Of course, they all have each other's phone numbers. Again, we're an online college for the most part. So they're calling and texting one another, but they have those formal meetings, and I'll talk a little bit about some suggested agenda topics that I provide to them to kind of get their gears flowing and what kind of conversations they need to be having to get the most out of the mentoring program. And then mid-year, meaning in December, I always send out a Google survey, and it's not anything cumbersome. It's just to say, how are you with staying on track to meeting your goals? How are you with getting the support that you thought you would get out of the mentoring program, out of myself as the coordinator, and out of your mentor? So I always want to take that data and make sure that I'm pivoting accordingly. I'm improving the things that I need to improve upon so that the mentoring program can continue to facilitate those feelings of belonging and making sure that faculty are set up for success academically and professionally. And then at the end of the year, of course, in April, I send out an end of year survey to make sure that what I'm doing is actually working and that it's translating all the way down to the mentee. And I can share any or all of these resources for anyone who would like more information about that. So just to start, in September, I give everyone a chance to get settled and get their courses set up and going. And then I meet with everyone on the mentor side and on the mentee side separately. And I just say, take this first meeting to build a relationship. A lot of times, again, they're first year faculty who don't necessarily know their mentor on a one-to-one basis. So I make sure that they establish those fundamental organic operations of their partnership before they get into the business of what can I get out of this. And then in October, we develop the action plan. We share the CV to make sure that the CV from the person coming from the industry is an academic CV, that when or if they come upon promotion, they go up for promotion, it's a CV that's in the correct format for the University of Arizona. So those kinds of things I definitely factor into those conversations. And I also want to always make sure that the mentor and the mentee are continuing to have an amicable relationship. If their personalities don't fit, I stay plugged in, of course, to make sure that there's not any kind of mismatching or adjustments that I need to do with those particular pairs. And then November, we're debriefing before finals, and we're looking ahead at that promotion dossier. Even for first year faculty, I want to go ahead and get them looking at the promotion dossier so that by year 3, they're not seeing this cumbersome amount of work that they need to do and feel so overwhelmed that they shrink back from even putting themselves up for promotion. So I always want to make sure that faculty are getting a bigger picture of what it is that they want to do with their career and how the mentoring program can help support their goals. And then in January, we're working hard on annual performance reviews because that is a requirement of faculty once they've served a consecutive 12 months at the university. So again, we factor in those required processes to the mentoring program to make sure that new faculty have that support to go through those different processes and that they don't feel like they're on an island by themselves and they have to submit all of this paperwork and all of these activities to justify their own retention at the university. And then February, we start crafting our next year's goals. And in the meantime, I'm still encouraging the faculty to meet with their department heads to make sure that the department heads are aware of what their goals are and that they are providing that additional support as well. So the name of the game for my mentoring program is community, collegiality, collaboration, and support. And I work continuously with the department heads and to make sure that that I'm supporting them and that they're in the best position possible to support their faculty. And then in March, a lot of conference presentations I'm finding, even with my own this past summer, I presented at CPED, or not past summer, a couple of weeks ago. But what I started doing in the springtime was collaborating with my co-presenters on a proposal, which got accepted over the summer. But we really wanted to make sure that we kind of look ahead into the spring semester to see what kind of conference presentations were available to the faculty if they were interested in presenting. How can our mentors help guide them in developing proposals? And then in April, we're sharing our findings from our peer evaluations because ours are typically due the last week in April, so that before faculty, our 9-month faculty go off contract in May, they have that feedback from their peer committee and from their department heads. And so if a faculty member got a needs improvement, for example, which is very rare, but for example, if they got a needs improvement in teaching, we want to make sure that faculty mentors can help that faculty member develop more innovative pedagogical approaches to their teaching, or that they stay connected with the UCAT office, the University Center for Assessment, Teaching, and Technology. Whatever tools and resources that they need, we want to make sure that we're having those meaningful conversations and we're not just meeting for the mentoring program for meeting's sake. And then, so to just speak briefly about some of the testimonials that I received from this last academic year's survey, one said that it was extremely helpful in navigating the systems and the requirements. And this was probably from a faculty member who came from the industry who didn't necessarily know about D2L. or how to put together a syllabus in the right template. Another said they learned about the college's logistics, teaching and working with D2L, research planning and approaching proposals, and someone caring to discuss the challenges of this work with. And my eyes lit up when I saw the last part of that testimonial, because that's what it's all about, is making sure that we establish a foundation on caring and respect and valuing faculty for what they bring to the institution and to the college, because anything after that probably won't be as successful if that foundation is not established prior. Another faculty member said that they felt the program was structured very well and provides ample support for participants. My mentor and I have had multiple conversations about courses, course updates, and opportunities for collaboration, which again, that's always an underlying goal. That's always what we strive to do from month to month throughout the whole academic year of the mentoring program. And then the last one, over the year, my mentee and I have developed a great relationship, and I feel she is satisfied with the mentoring program. And again, I may feel that faculty are satisfied with the mentoring program, but unless I have those one-on-one conversations and receive that feedback from them personally, I won't know how to continue to modify or adjust the mentoring program to fit every single person's specific needs. And so that's why I always want to give them the opportunity to give me the data so that I can make the necessary adjustments. But there's always more work to be done. Even when we get a meets or exceeds expectations, we always try to identify opportunities for our growth. And so coming from a new faculty member, they said understanding the complexities of commitment, excuse me, and the requirements as a new faculty. Again, in CAST, our typical career track faculty carry an 80% teaching load and a 20% service load. And 80% teaching is 4 courses across the semester, 8 courses across the year. And so what we really want to make sure that we do, even as Faculty Forum, is educating faculty on what their service commitments and what their expectations require from a practical standpoint, because faculty can sign a contract and not necessarily know how to carry forward the work to fulfill those expectations. And so that's another factor that I try to incorporate into understanding who I'm pairing with a particular mentee. And then support from CAST administration for research and proposal submission. We're still a fairly teaching heavy college with 20 of our faculty carrying a heavier teaching load and only 10 of them being tenure track. So the resources we're finding just aren't there. Even when we compare ourselves to, say, the College of Engineering, who has similar expectations as we do, but their resources kind of go a little above and beyond ours. So we're looking at what these benchmarks actually mean for our faculty and how to kind of close those gaps in support and resources. So this mentoring program definitely is highlighting some of that work that's needed as well. And so lastly, we'll take about the last 10 minutes of the session. And if you will scan this QR code, and I think this one will also be placed in the chat, so that we can kind of talk about how you may be able to leverage even some parts of this mentoring model to help your students, your faculty, or your staff in your respective units or departments. So take about a minute or two and think about the wealth of information that I just presented to you, and just share how you may be brainstorming different ways to incorporate various components of this model in your respective units. And I will share those responses in about 1 more minute. And if you'd also like to unmute and ask a question in the meantime, please feel free. or give a comment. And the question for this last one is, how have or how might you adopt a similar or adjusted model to fit the needs of your faculty, staff, or students? And again, just to revisit, I always try to make sure that faculty along the same tracks are paired with one another, because there are distinct requirements of tenure track faculty that are not required of career track faculty, and vice versa. I always try to ensure that the inequities that I perceived from faculty, I have a faculty member who has already navigated some of those challenges there to take that other faculty member on by the hand, so that we can work collaboratively to make sure that we establish a support system for those various faculty. And I see Jared has unmuted. Jared, did you? Oh, that was probably a mistake. All right. Well, if there are no questions or feedback to this last question, or no comments?
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Fisher. This information is so critical. I mean, we think about our schools, our educational settings are constantly in transition. That's just a natural part. And so making sure that people have a mentor or someone they can ask those cultural questions, whether it's child to child or peer to peer or faculty to faculty, really supporting someone's. It's much more than just onboarding somebody. It is really supporting someone's success, especially if they are new to whatever educational setting that they're in. For some of us, we're excited for academia. We went in there and then we were like, how does this all work? A mentor is critical. So thank you so much for sharing this amazing information. Thank you to the audience for your participation in today's session. Please use the survey linked in the chat to nominate TLC presentations for conference awards and share your feedback on this presentation. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Fisher. It looks like there's maybe a few people putting some comments into the chat if you want to take a minute or two.
Yeah, so one says, I definitely see the value in this mentoring model for our new associate faculty. It would be a matter of creating buy-in from our leadership. Absolutely. So we consider, or we name, I think it's adjunct for our associate faculty. So that's the synonymous name that we use. And I definitely, one of the things that I did not mention in my presentation was that I developed an FLC for our adjunct faculty, a faculty learning community for our adjunct faculty, because our then dean, Gary Packard at the time, saw that adjunct faculty, for the most part, felt that they weren't being included in some of those critical conversations that full-time faculty were. And so while they tend to be full-time practitioners in their own industries and they have full-time jobs, we still want to make sure that we're fostering a community of belonging and support for our adjunct faculty as well. So we didn't have the challenge of trying to convince leadership that we needed that, because our leadership already saw the need. And so when he communicated that to me, of course, the first thing that I did, which is what I always do, is ask a faculty member who's been there, can you help me with this? Because this is definitely an initiative that I want to make sure that we establish the right way so that it's meaningful. So I took a faculty member who was then full-time, but he had served maybe for the past 5 or 6 years as an adjunct faculty in the former UA South, so that he was able to navigate some of those conversations and critical issues with our adjunct faculty. So he actually served as the mentor of the FLC. And I sat in and listened to those conversations, and where there was an identified need for additional resources and support, I was definitely on board to make sure that I gathered that from. If it was the provost's office, I pulled it from there. If it was pulling in a speaker to talk more about setting up courses so that student engagement is at its highest it can possibly be, those are the types of things that I definitely made sure that I supported even our adjunct faculty with. So that is a very good point. Thank you for bringing that out. Thank you, Emily. Any other questions or comments? So again, if you would like to reach out to me personally, I will display my email address. It's just jocelynfisher@arizona.edu. If you'd like more resources about the survey, about the mentoring toolkit, suggested items for agenda topics, just let me know. I'm more than happy to share. And thank you so much for Holly and Nicole for supporting me during this presentation. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the great information. I know you will definitely be hearing from me. Thanks, everybody. Feel free to transition to the agenda and see what's next. We have an exciting day coming up. Thank you again, Dr. Fisher and Nicole, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.